Professor Pinna. In today's episode, I want to discuss 4 different perspectives of process that you should be aware of anytime you are about to begin a process mapping exercise. It could either mean success or failure, so be aware. Now, the first perspective is what you think the process is. That perspective should not be trusted. And the reason behind that is because it's assumed. And it's normally done in a vacuum with either one particular person or maybe a handful that really don't know what the process is. So that particular process, when you're mapping that one out, more than likely, it's not correct. So you should avoid that at all costs. The second process perspective is what the work instruction says or what the standard operating procedure says. Now, that particular process may have been right at a given point in time, but it may not actually reflect what is actually happening now. So that creates effectively 2 different processes, what's really happening versus what the SOP or the work instruction says. The other piece with that SOP or with the work instruction is it may have also been constructed by an individual outside of the process. So therefore, it becomes the assumed process or the process which we thought it to be. And that, of course, should not be trusted. The other point I'll make about SOPs and work instruction is that they're not written in stone. And as process changes, so should they. Now, assume we are looking to understand what's currently happening today. And we're trying to understand where the problems we're experiencing are actually taking place within the process. That is the current state process, or the as-is process. That is what is actually happening. That is the process perspective that you must always map, because that reflects reality. You want to talk to those that perform, feel, and understand what is taking place every single day in which they're involved within this said process. So always, and this is the key here, I'm going to say it again, always use the process map that reflects what is actually happening, what is actually going on. Because when you're looking to understand where your problems are and where you're looking to solve these particular problems, that process is going to hold true. Now that is the process map which you always want to reference anytime you're looking to improve a process which currently exists. The fourth perspective is what you want the process to be. Now, if you're trying to solve for a current state process, you don't want to reference that process map because that process doesn't exist either. Now, there may be an argument that says, well, we have to understand where we want to be before we can improve. Well, that is a pitfall. You don't want to do that either. Because how do you know that that future state is really what your process needs to be? You don't know where the problems are taking place. So therefore, you don't know what the solution is. So until you know what the solution is, and until you diagnose your problems within the process itself, that future, that state that you want to be, may not actually be where you should be. So don't ever reference that one either. Now, the only caveat with that is, let's say you're designing a process, and a process currently doesn't exist. Then yes, you will design a process of what you want to be. Now, the only caveat on that one is this. You're going to have more than one draft. As you move through the design process, you're going to find that you're going to go through multiple iterations of this particular process. So don't just map it once and call it a done deal, because that's not what will happen. You're going to make changes as you discover and as you learn. So the next time you're mapping out your processes, remember these 4 perspectives. What you think, what the documents say, what's really going on, and then what you want it to be. This is what will make you succeed and or fail. So remember that. Until next time, keep it real.